In the spring of 1940, the world teetered on the brink of disaster. Nazi Germany, fueled by an unstoppable blitzkrieg, swept across Europe. Belgium had fallen. France was crumbling. And on the northern coast of France, over 300,000 Allied troops were trapped at Dunkirk, a seaside town that had become a final stand for survival. The soldiers were cornered, their backs pressed against the cold waters of the English Channel. Their escape seemed impossible. But history, as it often does, is full of surprises. The evacuation of Dunkirk, codenamed Operation Dynamo, became a tale of heroism and endurance. Civilians in tiny fishing boats and yachts joined the effort, braving enemy fire to rescue soldiers. Yet, amidst the chaos, another story emerged, a story that defies logic and explanation. It was the tale of the ghost pilot, an unknown aviator flying an unmarked Spitfire who appeared when hope was nearly lost. His presence was first noted on the second day of the evacuation. Witnesses described a pilot with near superhuman skill, taking on waves of German bombers, protecting soldiers on the beach, and vanishing as mysteriously as he arrived. Who was he? To this day, the ghost pilot's identity remains a mystery. Some claim he was an angel, sent to deliver the soldiers to safety. Others believe he was a lone rogue pilot, perhaps a deserter or a fighter from a downed squadron. But the truth, that lies buried in the sands of Dunkirk. Soldiers on the ground began to hear the unmistakable roar of a Spitfire engine. At first, they thought it was another German attack, but this plane was different. It wasn't diving toward them. It was racing toward the bombers. Private Arthur Mills, who was huddled in a trench, described the scene vividly in his journal. "We thought it was the end. The Stukas were tearing us apart. Then, out of nowhere, this lone fighter appeared. It was a Spitfire, but it had no markings, none of the usual squadron identifiers. It flew like nothing I'd ever seen before, weaving through the sky, as if the pilot knew exactly where to strike." The soldiers watched in awe as the unmarked Spitfire single-handedly engaged the German bombers. It was a display of aerial combat unlike anything they'd ever witnessed. Every maneuver seemed calculated, every attack precise. Within minutes, several bombers were downed, and the remaining planes retreated. The beach erupted in cheers, but when the soldiers looked to the sky to thank their savior, the Spitfire was gone. The ghost pilot's appearance sparked a wave of rumors among the soldiers. Who was he? Where had he come from? Some believed he was an elite RAF pilot, part of a secret squadron. Others suggested he was a foreign volunteer, perhaps a French or Polish pilot who had defected. But there was one detail no one could explain: the absence of markings on his plane. Every military aircraft is required to bear insignias, designating its country and squadron. Yet the ghost pilot's Spitfire was completely blank, a ghostly silhouette in the sky. This led to more unconventional theories. Some soldiers claimed he was a ghost, perhaps the spirit of a pilot who had died earlier in the war, returning to protect his comrades. Others whispered that he was an angel, sent by divine forces to aid them in their darkest hour. Of course, there were skeptics. Many dismissed the sightings as exaggerations or the product of war-weary minds. But the encounters continued. Over the next 3 days, the ghost pilot appeared repeatedly, always arriving when the beaches were under the heaviest attack. June 4th, 1940, the last day of the Dunkirk evacuation. The situation was critical. Thousands of soldiers still awaited rescue, and the German forces were closing in. As the Stukas descended for what seemed like a final crushing assault, the now familiar roar of the ghost pilot's Spitfire filled the air. This time, the soldiers on the beach knew what to expect. They watched as he dived into the formation of bombers, weaving through their defenses with surgical precision. Witnesses described how he seemed to anticipate every move of the enemy, as if he could see the battle unfold before it happened. But then, something went wrong. A burst of flak struck the Spitfire's wing. Smoke began to trail from its engine, and for a moment, it seemed the ghost pilot's luck had run out. But instead of retreating, he performed one final act of heroism. Witnesses watched in stunned silence as the Spitfire, crippled but determined, dived directly into the lead bomber. The resulting explosion lit up the sky, scattering the German formation and buying the soldiers precious time to escape. When the smoke cleared, the Spitfire was gone. After the evacuation, British intelligence attempted to identify the mysterious pilot. They searched squadron records, interviewed survivors, and combed through wreckage. But no trace of the ghost pilot or his plane was ever found. To this day, his identity remains unknown. For the soldiers he saved, the ghost pilot was more than a hero. He was a symbol of hope in a time of despair. His story has inspired countless books, films, and debates, becoming one of the enduring mysteries of the Second World War. Perhaps we'll never know the truth, but one thing is certain. The ghost pilot of Dunkirk reminds us of the extraordinary courage and sacrifice that emerge in humanity's darkest hours. So, what do you think? Was the ghost pilot a real person, an angel, or something else entirely? The mystery endures, and perhaps that's what makes his story so captivating. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this story and want to explore more wartime mysteries, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep these forgotten fronts alive in our memories.